The Last Supper card game unboxing. When we open the box, here's what we'll see. 1 Chinese game manual, 1 English game manual, 7 Chinese instruction cards, 10 English instruction cards, 15 character cards, and 20 scripture cards. Now let's take a look. The detailed contents of each type of card are explained in the game manual. When we unfold it, one side features an illustration of the Last Supper, and the other side explains the gameplay and instructions. The character cards have a black back, indicating they are character cards. There are a total of 15 character cards, which can be divided into 3 factions: Jesus and the 11 disciples, Judas and the Pharisees and scribes. The victory condition for the Jesus and disciples faction is to expel all the Pharisees and scribes, while the victory condition for the Pharisees and scribes is to expel or capture Jesus. As for Judas, the only way for him to win is to successfully reveal the 30 pieces of silver scripture card during the Sanhedrin meeting, betraying Jesus and helping the Pharisees and scribes faction achieve victory. Only then will Judas win. The backs of the scripture cards are light-colored, indicating they are scripture cards. There are a total of 20 scripture cards, including 14 basic scripture cards and 6 special scripture cards. It should be noted that the backs of the basic scripture cards and the special scripture cards are different colors. Everyone should pay attention to distinguishing the special scripture cards, as these are only proportionally added to the shuffle pool in games with more than 10 players. When there are fewer than 10 players, we only use the basic scripture cards. Now, let's move on to the game process. Before the game begins, the judge needs to prepare according to the number of players. Prepare the corresponding character cards and scripture cards. Taking a 5-player game as an example, we need 5 players and 1 judge, which means that at least 6 people are required to play a 5-player game. Before the game starts, the judge needs to prepare 5 character cards and 7 scripture cards. The character cards must include Jesus, Judas, a Pharisee, and 2 random disciples. The 7 scripture cards can be any 7 chosen at random. Different combinations of scripture cards will provide different gameplay experiences. Based on our experience, we recommend the following. The scripture card configuration above. Based on our experience, we recommend the following. The above scripture card setup is suggested to make the game more interesting, but you can also configure different scripture cards according to your own experience. Taking a 7-player game as an example, the moderator needs to prepare 7 character cards, including Jesus, Judas, a Pharisee, a scribe, and any 3 disciples, as well as 9 scripture cards. The following is the recommended scripture card setup. Taking a 12-player game as an example, the moderator needs to prepare 12 character cards, including Jesus, Judas, a Pharisee, a scribe, and any 8 disciples, as well as 14 scripture cards. These consist of 10 basic scripture cards and 4 special scripture cards. The above is the recommended scripture card setup for a 12-player game. Here, the moderator needs to note that starting from the 12-player game, the Pharisee and the scribe can arrest 2 people at once during the religious council phase after the 3rd round. In the 14 and 15-player games, the moderator should be aware that all 20 scripture cards need to be prepared for drawing and use. Once preparations are complete, the game officially begins. Here we'll use a 5-player game as an example. At the start of the game, the moderator distributes character cards to the players. Each player looks at their own character card to confirm their identity. After confirming their identities, the moderator instructs everyone to close their eyes. The scribe and the Pharisee open their eyes. They confirm each other's identities. Then everyone closes their eyes and Judas opens his eyes. Moderator verifies Judas all close eyes and Jesus opens his. The moderator assists Jesus in confirming the identities of the scribe, the Pharisee, and Judas. Once all identities have been confirmed, the first round of the game begins. The moderator distributes scripture cards to the players. Players look at their own scripture cards and consider whether to keep them or pass them on during the card passing phase. The passing of scripture cards is the core gameplay mechanic of this game. This design is inspired by the passage, "At that time, all the believers were together and had everything in common." Therefore, in this phase, you can pass your scripture card. Pass it randomly to any player you want to share it with. In the first round of the game, any randomly chosen player can be the first to pass. After the first player finishes passing, the turn will continue in clockwise order starting from the first player. For example, if player A starts the passing, A can choose to pass to any one of B, C, or D. After A finishes, it's B's turn to pass, and B can pass to any one of A, C, or D. Next is C's turn, and C can pass to any one of A, B, or D. Continue in this way until the first player who passed is reached again. The host needs to deal an additional scripture card. Each player must pass once, and each person can hold a maximum of 2 scripture cards. If a player already has 2 scripture cards in hand, they cannot receive any more. After the scripture card passing phase ends, the game enters the truth-revealing stage. The purpose of this stage is to use the useful scripture cards in your hand to gain more privileges for yourself before the next stage, the Last Supper. For example, "Truly I tell you, if this scripture card is revealed at this time, it will grant you an extra voting right during the Last Supper phase." If the sea and sorrow scripture cards are revealed at this time, you can draw 2 scripture cards in the next round. It's important to note that some scripture cards, when revealed, may not have a specific function, but can still provide us with some indirect informational hints. For example, if the 30 pieces of silver scripture card is revealed at this time, it can be determined that in this round, Judas cannot betray Jesus. Next, we will enter the Last Supper phase. The purpose of this phase is for players to discuss who is the Pharisee, with the timing managed by the moderator. Each person has no more than 1 minute for their individual statement. After the individual statements, there will be a free discussion period lasting the total number of players minus 3 minutes. During the discussion, character cards and scripture cards may not be revealed. After all players have finished discussing, each player has 1 vote, which will be counted by the moderator. All players will vote simultaneously for the player they wish to expel in this round. The player who receives the most votes will be expelled. After all players have voted, the expelled player may use the corresponding scripture card to avoid being expelled. It is important to note that during the Last Supper phase, if Jesus is expelled during this phase, then the game ends immediately. If the Pharisees win, non-Jesus players who are eliminated will have 30 seconds for their final words. Their identities will not be revealed. If the game does not end at this point, it proceeds to the next stage, the Religious Council. In this stage, the moderator instructs everyone to close their eyes and listen, or the Pharisees may debate. At this time, the scribes or Pharisees designate the player they wish to arrest. Once the designation is complete, the moderator instructs all players to open their eyes. The designated player will be arrested. The arrested player may use the corresponding scripture card in their hand to recite and avoid being arrested. It should be noted that players who are arrested during the Religious Council will have their identities revealed and will not have a chance to speak. Judas players need to pay special attention. If you happen to have the 30 pieces of silver scripture card at this moment, You may, during this phase while all players have their eyes closed, open your eyes to betray Jesus and assist the scribes and Pharisees faction. If Jesus is arrested during this phase, the game ends. The scribes and Pharisees win. If Jesus is not arrested, the game proceeds to the second round. The judge will collect all the scripture cards and reshuffle them. After shuffling, scripture cards are redistributed to each player and the game enters the second round. The game continues until one side wins, at which point the game ends. Otherwise, it proceeds to the third round.